Hi there, Internet. It's me, Ruby Ray, and I wanted to preempt this episode with a little bit of an apology. I'm really sorry about the audio quality. This episode has been sitting with me for almost a month, and I've been extremely busy at work. I've tried my best to clean up the audio as much as I can, but there's a lot of clipping through it. Still, I felt like I wanted to post this regardless. I'm going to chop it up into smaller, more palatable bits for YouTube, but the full thing is going to be here on the podcast channels. So, thank you for listening. If you like this kind of content and you're watching on YouTube, I have another YouTube channel called Ruby Raid, where I speak specifically about my life. It's a little bit more free because it's not dependent on guests. Anyway, I do have another episode that will be coming out very shortly after this one. So I hope you enjoy that. We welcome back Ryan, who is now officially a neurosurgeon, he says. Anyway, thank you for listening. Do like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you want us to talk about something specific, please let me know. Bye. Love you and enjoy. Hello, welcome to Kaleidoscope. I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Luigi.
What up? Long
And-
time, folks. Long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've been here.
Yeah.
I'm also joined by Nora, a biological geneticist from South Africa. My name is Rae, and I'm what happens when you're an overworked teacher and you decide to open a podcast. This is 14 episodes later.
Hello, folks. I'm Luigi, and I think baby hippos are some of the cutest things on the planet.
Wait, have you seen the Sleepy Hippo video?
Sleepy hippo video? I haven't. Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find that line again.
All right. Make it happen.
And then we are joined.
Hey, I'm Nora. Like Ruby said, I'm a behavioral geneticist, or I'm studying to become a behavioral geneticist, and I'm based in South Africa.
Excellent.
Welcome.
When I first spoke to you, can I say how we met?
Yeah.
Okay. Nora and I are on a Discord server together. And I like to go onto the Discord server while I walk my dog. That's my go-to thing to do. Some people listen to podcasts. When I'm not in podcasts, I'm not listening to podcasts. I'm talking to people and looking for people to bring onto my podcast. What happened was Nora said, next time you're on, let me know and I'll try and be on. And that didn't happen, kind of. And then the other day we were on and you were like, yes, I'm here. We spoke for like 3 hours. Amazing. What brought you to that server?
So basically, the server we were on is basically one of the only platforms I've been able to find that's like a specific queer space for South Africans. That's like it's specifically trans focused, but it's a nice space, and also just like meeting people from your own country that are part of the same community as you.
Exactly. One of the best things about me as a trans woman living alone in China with only cisgender Luigi for company.
You're not living alone. I'm living alone. Ruby's got a great life. I'm really envious.
I try. All you have to do is go out and make it rain.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Nora, there's a running gag on this show where Luigi is misanthropic.
No, I love people.
Hates spending money. What's the term?
Hate it. Is there a psychological term for it? There probably is. I haven't defined it. Let me note that down. And then in the future, I will self-diagnose pure obsessive compulsive, maybe manifest as a fear of spending money. Really hurts for me to spend money. I'm like a bad Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know if it hurt Ebenezer Scrooge to spend money, but that's my segue to talk about the theme of today's episode and probably maybe the next few ones, because the decor won't change.
Okay.
It's Christmas. It's still Christmas in my heart.
It's the late Christmas episode. It's because we missed Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luigi feels nostalgic.
Yeah. I really like the Christmas season. And I know for some people it might be painful.
Jingle bell.
But I'm going gangbuster on decorating. Or at least I did it this year. And yes, it's still up. And that's because in China, they don't have their New Year for another month. So for me, it's a reason, to keep up with the festivities. I get to pretend it's Christmas a little longer.
All right.
Okay, we won't mention it again. So the viewers will just have to endure my decor, my table runners, my beautiful, little red trees.
Well, it's been 5 minutes and we've been babbling. There are segments that we're missing. Nora, when we begin this, we have a quick fire round, couple of questions, just a roundabout. I'll start. We all answer the same question and try and keep the answer to like 1 second. Is that okay for you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's completely fine.
You go first.
Why did you study what you wanted to study?
You mean in school?
Yes,
Oh,
in university.
because I'm a fool. So I was always kind of academically like lost when it came to university. I don't know if I really studied what I really wanted to study. I think I did, but also kind of didn't. So I must have changed my major a billion times. So for me to answer that question honestly, I don't know if it's the honest answer, because I think it's weird. I'm academically minded, but I don't think I was I don't think I was meant for university. That sounds really strange. It sounds like a paradox. I took English literature at first, and then I changed to economics, and then I changed to environmental studies, and then I went back into literature, and then I changed into rhetoric. So I was just chronically changing my degree because I really didn't know what to do with my life. I mean, technically, I guess I still don't. And the difference is now I've just settled into it. So I have a lot of majors, and my graduate degree it was called Cultural Analysis and Social Theory. It was just cultural studies, which is kind of like an umbrella like area of study. It combines all humanities subjects. So again, just speaks to my lack of direction, even still. Sorry, that was a long answer. You said that.
Great, thanks for that one sentence.
My bad. I blew it. I already messed up. English. Okay. I studied it because I like poetry. Okay.
We'll delve into that a bit later. Nora, why did you study what you wanted to study?
I kind of went into genetics because it's one of the newer sciences, I guess, and we're still learning so much about it. So my thought process was I'm interested in the subject. There's good career growth opportunity and opportunity for the field to develop. And also there's just a lot of career opportunities like in general, like different jobs you can do with a basic genetics degree and then specialize further. So it allowed me flexibility while still being something I'm interested in with a higher earning potential.
What a practical answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah. You got a good head on your shoulders.
I studied communication. And even though I am now running a podcast, and it seems like that's exactly what I studied.
Yeah.
It's not. I studied like marketing. And the reason I studied what I studied is because it's flexible. I wanted something super, super flexible. And I feel like I achieved that.
I think that communications has a lot of transdisciplinary qualities in terms of like yeah, okay, I get it.
Are you punning? Are you
No,
punning
that's
on
not
my
a pun. It's just the necessary word. but communications has to do with marketing. It has to do with what's that other word? Like when you're like in charge of a celebrity and you do all the talking for them. PR. That's it.
public relations? Yeah.
Public relations. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, rhetoric does draw a lot on communications. A lot of the classes I took in university were alongside communication. I don't know why my program technically was, I think, communications, even though it was called rhetoric. Anyway,
Nora, do you have a question for us? A quick fire question.
it can be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so interesting to hear your stories because like we have such different approaches to what we studied. You in communication, us STEM majors, and also like any humanities subjects. Us STEM majors just like making fun of humanities because it's just a little rivalry we have. So did you have any of those
Sure.
like little rivalries with any of your STEM friends while studying, or did you not really interact with people in that sense?
Okay. Well, you touched on something major because what I studied is not technically um it's not, obviously it's not STEM. It was commercial, degree. But I was registered for international relations for the entirety of my study until the exam was written. And that was because I suck at maths. Or I
Really?
did. Yeah. I had dyscalculia. And
I feel like you told me this before.
yeah, HRT has basically eliminated that. Except
Now you can do math.
now I can do,
You found the cure for dyscalculia. It's HRT.
I can read numbers better. So anyway, yeah, all of my studies, I was registered for BA relations. I studied, and then after my last exam, I walked into the office. I was like, look, I have none of the credits for this. I have all of the credits for this. Change me, and they did.
Good.
But to answer your question, I'm still my most persistent friend from high school is a senior software in a cloud service. So I had good relations with most of the STEM people and almost zero relation with any of my own stuff.
Me, I don't know. Alyssa, I had deep shame for being in the humanities because I went to a school that was famous for engineering and math. But I was also very aware that what I studied wouldn't necessarily result in a fruitful career, or at least one that made money. That's what I thought 20 years ago. But I find nowadays, because of things like social media and AI and all this stuff, it's actually, I think now humanities graduates do pretty well. The landscape changed. But I don't recall having any like peers that were engineers or anything like that I hung out with. But I mean, everybody, if you're in the humanities, you're kind of not. Like you were like a social pariah.
Yeah.
Kind of scoffed at. That was my undergrad. But my grad was a different school. Great place. Loved it. They're like, science, what's that? Get out of here.
And you studied with a whole bunch of
Whole bunch of queer colored folk. Yep.
and that's kind of a lot of where I found the comfort in building now long friendship with Rae.
Speechless.
Oh no! Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I just received a phone call. I told people not to bother me, but sometimes people don't respect your time or your wishes.
You're just too popular.
Oh, it's just my grandparents, but yeah, I told them not to bother. But
Invite them on.
Yeah, bring him on.
they're South African old people. They aren't suited for this type of climate, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, coming from conservative South Africa myself, I what about your relation, like, I guess, cross-disciplinary students in you?
The echo kind of made that a bit difficult to understand. Would you mind just repeating the question? Sorry.
Sure. I mean, it's your own question. You asked us about the, like, relationship with sex.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm part of this like day residence where it's just a bunch of like a group of people that interact daily. So we get to interact with a bunch of different majors and stuff. So it's just fun having a little rivalry between the humanities and the STEM students because it's only with my friends, but they like to say we have no emotional intelligence and we like to say they can't do math. So we just like to like
Fair.
playfully tease one another, I guess.
Okay, that's cool. Luigi, it's
Right.
your
It's real,
question.
real simple. Ready? Cosplay or no cosplay?
Cosplay.
Do I have to answer next? Nora, you answer. Go.
Like cosplay or no cosplay, like people like do I like cosplay?
Yeah.
Sure. Interpret however you see fit.
Yeah, I've never done it, but I love it when other people do it because they're so good at it. Like sometimes, recently I saw this
Yeah.
like Springtrap cosplay with like the full animatronic suit that they were able to like articulate and move in. That's really cool. But personally, I don't think I'd ever do it, if that makes sense.
I don't know if I could do it either. I mean, I know people do it, but sometimes it kind of freaks me out. But that's just me. What can I say?
I love cosplay. I cosplay whenever I get the option. Whenever I get the option.
It was bad a moment ago, but it's better now that you're talking. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next segment of today's podcast, and that is to share perspectives. And honestly, I had such a great perspective lined up while I was driving here today, and I completely forgot about it. So I'm going to bring it back to my experience in something that I'm struggling with right now. And that is this. I live in China. I have applied to have my gender marker and name changed in South Africa. And I have spent close to 1,000 RMB trying just to call the Department of Home Affairs in my country to find out if my changes have been done. I have spent hours and hours on hold. And my perspective is this: all phone calls should be free, and all telephonic companies should be government owned and publicly sponsored. There should be no such thing as a telecommunications company unless you want to upgrade. Free phone calls internationally for everyone is that's the only way that the future happens.
Okay.
And not to a landline.
No.
Okay, fine.
I'm trying to. So, I mean, it'd be nice.
Yes, the phone companies are owned by China, but I am not DHA. Okay, change of my perspectives. Governments should all have VoIP services to phone.
What is VoIP?
Voice over IP.
Should I explain?
If you want.
And I think also I'm not completely sure. The technical side of things has always eluded me. I am a biology nerd through and through. All of this stuff about like people talking about their computers and stuff, it's just flies over my head.
Okay, as the IT person, then voice over IP means it's internet phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's internet phone. Whenever you phone someone with voice to like another thing, it uses an IP address to route instead of the conventional phone services.
I'm all for it. Give me free.
I don't know, my perspective on what you said would kind of be like, because I feel like as a South African, I kind of have a bit of a more unique experience with the government side, where if you leave anything to our government, it probably isn't going to be that great. I mean, our public health services, our train services, or anything. So if I were to be in a country where I know the government has low levels of corruption, actually uses funds for what they have to, then I would agree to that. But I don't really trust my government to build the infrastructure and maintain the infrastructure that would allow these things to function.
Happy.
That is a super valid point.
It is.
But I think that what's happened in South Africa is there has been such a focus on companies doing it. We have three major companies. They're called Telkom, Cell C, MTN04, and Vodacom. These three companies are partially government owned already, but they are so corrupt that Vodacom, for example, got kicked out of Nigeria for overcharging for its cell phone services because they were just like, the government there was, we're not having this. Meanwhile, in South Africa, they are fleecing us on prices to a degree that's just really not acceptable. I paid 2,000 RMB or 1,000 RMB. That's about 2,000 rand.
Yeah.
I can't like maybe like 1,000 RMB a month just to use the phone, internet. I don't even know. They have you subscribe to, as far as I know, it's packages that include the phone and the internet. You can't separate them. Even like television.
Well, you might just excusing me for
Television.
2
Phone.
minutes.
Would make it expensive. Of course, there are smaller companies that try and circumvent that. Like you pay 200 RMB a month for internet. The viewers don't really understand that money, do they, Ruby?
200 RMB a month is 400 Rand or 30 US dollars.
Yeah, 30 US dollars, which I think is pretty cheap, pretty affordable for American.
Yeah,
Don't quote me.
Expensive.
Anyway. Yeah.
I kind of think that's my whole perspective. It's not a great one today.
Give me free. You don't admit it.
Yeah, I'm more so for, I guess, socio as like a socialist capitalist mixture where we still have that drive to motivate people, but like a universal basic income along with education, housing, food, all of that stuff. So I apply that to a lot of concepts in the sense of like what we were just talking about, like it should be free. I believe that everybody should have access to it, but then you have taxes, for instance, that help maintain the infrastructure. Like you're still paying for it in some way. It's moderated by a government body and not for a for-profit company.
Remind me, you two, South Africa leans towards socialism or capitalism?
Socialism, I would say.
Socialism.
Oh, there you go. I mean, good, but also from what you guys tell me, it's pretty corrupt. So I'm a little
Yeah.
I guess you can kind of think about it as pre-World War II Russia or World War II Russia, where the system was hijacked by a couple of corrupt companies and driving it in a specific direction that nobody wanted.
Isn't that how?
A little bit, yeah, but I kind of think even though where we live is not communist and neither is it purely socialist, there's a lot of socialist policies here that work.
Yeah.
And the degree of capitalism is still being exploited by, if you look at companies like Alibaba and so forth. But the system really kind of works.
I have no comment.
If I could change one thing about China, it would be censorship. Just give me YouTube. Just give me uncensored internet.
Yeah, that'd be
Please.
nice.
Yeah. Give me parties that are like allow large groups of people to gather for a specific purpose.
That happens.
Yeah.
Unless I just don't get out enough. But
Yeah, there are, but there are no like pride marches or days dedicated to
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna say like you're muted, Luigi. So like I'm only hearing tidbits of your conversation
damn.
through Ray's microphone.
I will be more mindful. Apologies. Here, I'll just keep it. It's on all the time.
Okay, I'll add more thoroughly, probably. I have a question.
That's a really interesting question because it's really difficult for me to say because with the like rise, like far right rhetoric that is coming out, what I mean by that is not like people being conservative, but I mean that the removal of certain groups, like minority groups and marginalized groups, human rights, in places I thought were completely safe from that. It's a really difficult thing to think about, but probably somewhere like Berlin or somewhere in Sweden, something like that, where I know that my public services are going to be good, and also I don't have to fear for my life every time I go outside. So but it's really difficult to say because what I thought a few months ago where I wanted to live is not where I think I want to live now. So when I was a child, it was America. Like America was like the place to be. Like everybody, it was drilled into you as a child. You need to get a good education, get a job in America if you're South African, and then go over there. Then it was Canada for a bit, but kind of, in all honesty, like both of them are kind of falling apart, especially America. And then it was
What have you heard?
then it was to the European side, like, but then like the whole, like all of the housing and economic issues that are coming up there. So probably somewhere like that's really queer friendly now, like Berlin. It was always like a few months ago, it was like what do you call those countries? Nordic country, that are like up there. But yeah, currently it's mainly Berlin.
But okay, so Germany has the AfD. So I mean, for me, the AfD is kind of a scary thing. If you had to ask me right now, as a trans woman living in the world, if I could move back anywhere and not have a concern for safety and where I felt kind of comfortable, the biggest issue is money. Like I need to have an income that is gonna sustain a certain level of comfort and the ability to maintain medical care. Um, so if I could move somewhere, actually, where I could be sure that I would have all of those things, it would be South Africa because that's where I've been, where I felt safe. And then the other places are Thailand and China. I don't have a context for the rest of the world, but I know that there's increasing narrative. My question is, what about South Africa? How do you feel living there? Do you fear for your life for the because you are um transgender, or do you fear for your life because it's a dangerous?
Less so because of the me being trans, because we have some of the most not necessarily specifically where I live, but South Africa has some really great queer spaces. It's more so just like when you start to
Mhm.
fully pass and people view you as a woman, now you become susceptible to the extremely high femicide rates and I don't
Yes,
know the level of censorship, but there are some really horrible things happening over here. Like about 11 women die a day due to femicide, like just because they're
Wow.
women. So like actually being trans and passing feels really, really dangerous given how women are treated in this country.
I feel the same. I don't feel the same here. I feel like China is the safest country I've ever lived in.
I don't. It's really interesting. I guess a really interesting thing I've come across recently is more so how I feel like, especially given the current rise in right wing rhetoric, I feel like the people on the left should focus more on being united than necessarily being like, I am this person and I say this and this and this and this. We should just be united for everybody's human rights instead of being like you are using this term incorrectly or you are doing this incorrectly. I feel like there's a larger threat that's coming to a lot of our rights that isn't really being talked about enough because I feel like the left is very fragmented, whereas the right is very united, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying. And as long as so they can maintain power.
I think it's worse than that.
Okay.
I think it comes from, you're right. Trans people are constantly targeted, like relentlessly
Yeah.
in the media, even to the point where if you look at, how can I not remember, Rebecca Good, who was shot and killed 4 days ago by an ICE agent. The next day, Jesse Wilson on Fox News started off saying she was killed. She used pronouns in her bio. She was lesbian.
She was married and had 3 kids.
Yeah, to a woman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the narrative on the news that you tend to watch, which is kind of partisan, neutral to an extent, but
Yeah.
it's also poisoned by hiding the truth. Whereas Fox News is just overtly hostile to
Yes.
the queer community.
Yeah.
And they have this benefit of a cult following where they just do and say what they want, and it's purely about the hate. It's not about it's about hate and violence.
Yeah.
And what I think what Nora is saying is there is a problem on the where a group of I'm going to be used for them. A group of people, like some lefties, they will obsess about doing things right as opposed to saying like, look, there's a minimum, there's a bar that has been reached, and from now on we need to get shit done, as opposed to focusing on having it the way that we need to have it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Yes. So then how do you get those people to like recognize that and stop being in their own kind of like bubble of rage?
Wait, are we talking left or right?
Let's say left for sake of argument. Because some people really want to it's like when a person drinks coffee in the morning, they get really excitable. And they don't understand that it's the coffee making them really excitable. And it's kind of like, so that's how I liken it to those kinds of people who use that kind or who get really, what's the word? Okay. They get really excited by getting to debate and talk about things, but it's not really paying attention to the real issues. Does that make sense?
I think
Be honest. Am I explaining myself clearly?
I think so.
You say I think so means no, you don't know what I'm saying. So, Ruby, your point was that, yeah, people, now correct me if I'm wrong, people need to just get over their hang-ups and just, stick to the real issues of like solving a problem, right?
I'll give you an example.
Okay. I want to clarify this, but yeah, give me an example.
On the way driving here today, I was in a chat room.
Okay.
And I was talking to people, and
Yeah.
somebody mentioned that they were they had a problem.
Yeah.
They'd been assaulted.
Okay.
Let me think about how I need to answer this. There were two people there answering the questions and prescribing how this person who was assaulted should feel over and over and over, as opposed to just letting that person talk. And with that, I think there's another problem where, let's say somebody misgenders me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy doing something and they misgender me, and I go, you misgender me. And they go, oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I go, no, that's fine. Let's carry on. And then a minute later, they bring it up again, and then again, and then again, because they carry this guilt for whatever, as opposed to just moving on from this situation.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nora?
Yeah, I've also experienced that in a lot of queer spaces where people are really, really worried and like constantly talk about specific issues instead of moving on, I guess, in the way that you've described it. But I don't know, for me personally, if somebody misgenders me or somebody makes a mistake and you're like, hey, you did this, I didn't like that, can we please not do that? And then they don't do it anymore. For me, it's more about not the mistake itself, but the effort afterwards. Like, is this person actually putting in the effort? And that way, I wouldn't mind. But also constantly being forced to, I guess, not forced, but having this person's guilt projected onto yourself, it's a really difficult thing to deal with because now you're apologizing. Like, it feels like you're apologizing for making them feel guilty, if that makes sense, if they're like constantly projecting it onto you.
Yeah. And then there's a problem of where some people might go and police, like maybe Luigi, you've actually never done this, but let's say there's a situation where you accidentally misgender.
I'm very
I
mindful of
can't
that.
imagine someone else policing you. That would annoy you.
Okay. I feel okay. Yeah. I feel like we're diverging from the original point, and now we're talking about something else. But yeah, it would annoy you.
Yeah, there's a problem of policing.
Okay. So then, are we saying the issue then is that I don't know anymore? No, we've gone off the rails. What's the original original point that we're trying to make about the left. Too many different camps on the left. And so okay, other people are policing others on the left. Right. And they're doing that by saying things or by policing their language, their thoughts, their
Unity is
ideas.
fractured because people are too focused on being perfectly unified.
Is that it? Or are they too focused on being too PC? The way I look at it is that they're being too concerned too much with political correctness. And that the issue with that is
It's the same cup.
stop. Stop. No, you're ruining my train of thought. The issue is when you're trying to police others on how to be, it's a distraction from actually solving the problem. So if you're worried, now you're looking at me like that, smile, like, oh, you're such an idiot. I don't know. I was right all along. All right, PC bad. Yeah, throw all that stuff away. It's not important. Knowing which pedantic intellectual jargon isn't the issue, and it's a distraction. But how do you convince people? How do you stop those people from seeing red? You know, let's say someone gets really mad that you called a toilet a John, and you're supposed to, and that's offensive, and it should be a water closet. And they're so mad until you check yourself. How do you get them out of that frame of mind? Because my argument is that some people are disingenuous and they like that kind of state, and it really like gets them going. And it's like a form of like mental masturbation, and that's really what they're into. That's their king, not actually, doing the work to solve a real problem. Maybe they're afraid and they think deep down inside that's like their way of distracting people from knowing I don't know, so many possibilities. Help me out, ladies.
I think personally that the real only way to affect that in a meaningful way would be to have like a greater mind shift, like a frame shift of what it means to be a part of the left and what it means to fight for human rights and equality. It shouldn't be this like nitpicky thing of getting everything right, but just making
Yeah,
sure that, hey, everybody can live a normal lifestyle without the fear of death or persecution. I think that a mind shift is what's needed in the greater left community. And yeah, that's what I would say.
I think a level of respect being afforded to different perspectives with the understanding that there is a line that cannot be crossed, but also allowing interactions to happen between people without interfering, like with the trust that both of those people have the intelligence to do that. And this is really where
yeah.
the problem kind of manifests more than it should. I don't know the answer, is what I'm trying to say.
I know the answer based on my opinion. They need to get over their silly PC-ness. I don't know how to change people. No, what I think I think people can change. Okay, Nora, do you see a lot of this in university now? Like, do you see these kinds of people who are like PC police, policing others, saying you need to do this, but you can't say that, and it's really not about the real issues?
I feel it's less so an issue, specifically with the people I've met at university because of my country's backgrounds, of me and Ray's country's background, with all the the
Yeah,
racism and everything. People are still a lot more focused on actually just being together and it being a mixed country, I guess, instead of a separated country. So there are some people, but it's a lot less common than what I would see from, let's say, on Discord, my American friends. We're way more focused on just being a group of people together and being harmonious than necessarily the PC bits.
but okay, go ahead, Ruby.
I want to say that a big part of the war on PC can be attributed to American media manipulation because
Okay,
a lot of the PC stuff stems from American news cycle. And that,
I don't
well,
know. I'd have to do the research. I don't know.
obviously this is not a scientific opinion.
Yeah.
But from what I see and feel anecdotally is that the war on being politically correct is fueled by American rage mongers like Donald Trump because nobody cared.
I don't think Donald Trump's politically correct. I don't think he cares that he's politically correct.
Yeah, he's a rage monger. That's my point.
Okay.
He uses a opinion that has been scientifically settled. For example, the trans sports debate, right? Trans people have been playing sports in the Olympics for like 20, 30 years.
Okay.
Nobody's ever won a medal. But somehow, suddenly, we're suddenly stealing all of the medals.
Right.
So that, like, topic that feels different is just being used. Whereas before, nobody actually cared.
You're right. Yeah. Yes, I agree with the nobody actually cares, but it's oh, what's it called when you do that? I don't know. It's the getting people to respond to their feelings that really prevents the problem from being solved. If that makes sense. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me think about this. I know what I'm saying, but I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm going to mute you for a while. Nora, tell me what you think.
A little tangent about the sports thing. I was on the fence about it in terms of like the actual science, because in certain sports, like having a certain bone structure or bone density, whatever it may be, can technically give you an advantage. But then I started HRT, and like the things I was able to do, they're not possible anymore. Like picking up the water jug and putting it back on top of the water cooler. I went from a one hand thing of just like it's like 40-ish pounds. Like picking it up with one hand, lifting it over my head and just putting it on to okay, it's on my legs, it's on my chest, let's go up and then we put it down. Because it's like it's such a like after personally experiencing it, I really don't see how that would affect us. And also, aren't a lot of trans femmes testosterone levels just lower than a lot of natural femmes, especially if you're still on like a higher dose of spiral? Like the normal range is like 50-ish, where most people are below that in like the 20s or the 30s.
Yeah, there's a few factors here that you mentioned. And you're right. Testosterone puberty results in a thicker bone structure, and testosterone supports muscle mass. But once you switch over, muscle mass, ligaments, all soft tissues start changing over time. And when you are when you have potentially this marginally thicker bone structure, because let's be honest, it's not the difference between like titanium and aluminum. It is the difference between like kinds of hardwood that you find in the wild, different trees. It's not pine and oak. It's more like oak and redwood. If there is a difference, I'm using this analogy. I don't know anything about wood, but the bottom line is a thicker bone structure with equal muscle mass, or even if some of the muscle mass is retained with exercise, so that makes it genetic, that can be a disadvantage. Like here I am now with maybe equal muscle mass, but thicker bones. So on certain sports, that's not going to be an advantage at all. For example, my muscles are working harder. And then from my own anecdotal experience, I used to be much stronger than I am now. I could easily deadlift 100, well, not easily, I could deadlift 185 kilograms. That is much more than most cis men. My partner, who is a cis woman, can now lift more than me no matter how hard I try. I bench 50, she benches 75. That being said, she is a personal trainer. However, as a person with a personal trainer as a life partner, I also train and I have a bench press in my house. And I'm still not stronger. Like it's not an innate thing. Yeah. So that was a long tangent there.
Along the side. Can I talk now? You not mute me? Okay. So talk about your Trump point again. What did you say Trump does?
Trump fear mongers.
Okay, fear mongers. And why does he do that?
To fuel and unify people that are slightly out of touch with a certain topic, and then so
Right.
he's cultivating. He's cultivating. He's creating a cult.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, no, I know what you're saying. So the point I wanted to say was that he's using feelings. He wants to appeal to people's feelings. And
I have an interesting like tidbit about do your own research. As somebody, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Um, no, an interesting tidbit, which I think kind of sort of relates to this, but where people are always like, no, do your own research. I personally don't think that people, the layman, should be doing their own research. Like, as somebody who's actively in university and learning how to do research, it's like you can look at research, but you're not technically researching. You're doing the first steps of researching. You're gathering the information. Like we spend years learning how to isolate our variables, how to manage your confounding variables, your nonsense variables, how to set up an experiment and actually test something for what it is. So it's like I don't know, it's more a semantic thing, I guess, of like go look at research and then make an informed opinion about it. But by definition, like I wouldn't necessarily say anybody's like the layman isn't really doing their own research, if that makes sense. It's just like a little semantic tidbit about being in STEM. Uh, Yeah, true. I would argue that true objectivity is impossible for humans because we are subjective beings. We view the world through our own biases and lenses. But that's why the scientific process is so great because it's repeatable. You know, it's multiple different people can do the same experiment and you can still find this. I mean, you don't have to be like a biologist or a physicist to do experiments. Like people in humanities, like psychology, they also do really valid and good experiments that are repeatable and testable. And that's kind of the way we subvert our biases and our own conclusions to be closer to the truth is by basically just doing a bunch of repetition. about this specific thing we were talking about. Just like one last thing, like because I'm in behavioral genetics, a lot of my modules and areas of studies are also focused in the psychology field. So how we would do qualitative research in the psychology field would be, like you said, you just talk to people. Normally, the more people you get and the more responses you get, the more validated your research is. Just by means of expanding your database and getting an average. But that's not really speaking to, because I don't really think objective morality or an objective way of living exists. So when answering these types of questions, like I really don't feel like there is going to be a scientific way to answer these questions because they're subjective questions. Like this question changes from person to person. So it's yeah, like it's I agree in your sentiment in that it's really difficult for these like these types of issues to objectively be able to convince somebody of a specific issue instead of like you're forced to go for an emotional appeal. Oh, I was just doing the little thing, but no, I think for me, it's mainly that, especially with the older ones, the operative change in the narrative can only happen through a man. With Princess and the Frog, it's a bit different. Moana, it's a bit different, but like with especially the older ones like Snow White, Cinderella, the operative change has to happen through a man. Like she isn't really, she's a hard worker, but it's happening through him. So what I mean is from a narrative standpoint, like she's lost on her own or she's struggling on her own. And instead of overcoming that personal journey that's subverted by uh the Prince Charming coming in and swooping her and taking her away from her situation, there's a lot less character growth and a lot less fighting, I guess, especially with the older ones than with the newer ones who have more of an actual negligible effect on the plot, like on the narrative of the story, if that makes sense, if I'm communicating properly. This is a really interesting topic, like, especially with, I would say, a character that I could point to, that I'd be like, that is a strong female lead that still has a romantic interest, and it's not defining her personality, but also is a strong warrior, would be like Katara from Avatar, the Last Airbender. Like, she's a strong, independent woman that has operative on the narrative, but she still has a love interest. So I would like to see media moving more towards women as people and less women as like a damsel in distress, or like basically character like how do you say this in English? Like archetyping women in a very I need help kind of way, instead of I don't maybe know where what I'm doing, but I have the capacity to learn and to grow, I guess, is what I'm seeing with a lot of media and women. Yeah, it's good that recently it's come up more. Like we're getting more actual characters out of like females. Yeah, I love Katara. Katara, I think, is a really great example of a strong female main character. No, I think you're thinking about Korra. But yeah, Korra was, yeah. Ooh, why? Yeah. She does marry Aang, and this is what's really cool about her. She's allowed to have a romantic relationship without it defining character development or her, I guess, combat ability in air quotes. Like she's a formidable fighter, and a strong woman, but she's still allowed to have a caring side and a loving side. With the blood moon specifically, like when she was forced to use it on the person that taught her that to save Aang and Sokka, like she was crying. Was disgusted. She never wanted to use that ever again because of just how like like violating it is to the other person. So like she still has her values, in the sense of valuing autonomy and valuing other people. But in a certain situation, it's like when you're forced to defend yourself, I guess. Like you can still value human life, but want to defend your own life, I guess. Yeah, that would be really fun to talk about and like talk with, especially if they're like pretty much similar to me, because I have gotten these remarks before about the way I speak, uh, the way I like communicate my inner thoughts. So that would be really interesting. I think Katara is a great, like the question would be, is Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender a well-written female character in the sense of communicating aspects of humanity while still having a strong feminine base?
And unmute myself. And then I will run the closing. This has been Kaleidoscope. I am Ruby Ray. Today I was joined with Nora, a behavioral biologist from South Africa, and my lovely co-host, Luigi. You can find Kaleidoscope on YouTube at Echo Embers Echo Perspectives at Echo Perspectives. You can find more of me at Ruby Raed on YouTube, my other personal channel. You can find both of those things on Instagram at Fire from Heat and on TikTok, Heat from Fire. If you don't know, that is a trans voice training phrase from a poem from a very famous transgender voice trainer who's unfortunately passed last year. It's heat from fire, fire from heat. Thank you so much for watching. Please answer the question. What's her name?
Katara.
Is Katara a good female character while representing facets of humanity, having a love interest while still maintaining feminine ideals? I'll clarify that in the question. Give us your answer, yes or no. I love you. Do you guys want to say goodbye?
Bye.